Hi, everyone. Welcome to our final class. We are going to be doing the deep front line now. So we're going to be getting into some deeper muscles, as I'm sure you can imagine. Sometimes, honestly, there's days where I do this and I can really sense and feel these muscles. And there's other days where, I don't know, maybe there's resistance in my body or something. And the muscles that we're going to get into aren't quite as obvious, right? We are working with deep muscles, so the sensations might not be as obvious, but we're going to go ahead and you'll at least know where all of these spots are, and you can try them and see how your body changes day to day as you try these classes over and over again. So the first one that we're going to do is for the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is, as I'm sure you know, like a parachute in the torso that is our main breathing muscle. So what we're going to do, it sits right about here. What we're going to try our best to do is use the balls to go sort of like into the ribs and up. It'll be a small amount. And then what we'll do is we'll use our breath to really be able to get into the diaphragm. So let me show you where it is first, and then we'll come into it together. We'll do this laying down. What you want to do is find your bottom ribs. So if I just show you the outline of my bottom ribs, it's like that. So find the center bit, go down maybe an inch or so, and then to the side about an inch or so, and you'll be right on the edge of your ribs. So again, this is where the two balls are going to go. And when we breathe, well, I'll tell you when we get into it, okay? So find those spots on your body and come on down to your belly. And you can start off on your forearms here to take some of the load, and that's absolutely fine. You might already be able to sense something going on. Just watch that you're not actually on your ribs. You want to be just below the ribs. So again, you can stay here, or you can lower yourself on down and just rest your head on your hands there. Now, when we inhale, think about pressing your belly into the balls, like you could push the balls away from you. And then when you exhale, let everything soften and imagine the balls going into your ribs and up. Do that again. Big breath in. Exhale, just surrender to it. Nice. And just stay here, continuing to use your breath. The deep front line is a really fascinating myofascial train or chain because it really does relate to our nervous system. Of course, they all do. But this really relates to our sympathetic nervous system, or, well, our autonomic nervous system. Of course, the diaphragm is a breathing muscle, which is, of course, important for our life. And then we've got the iliopsoas muscle as well, which is intimately connected to our fight or flight response. So we don't need to analyze anything too much right now. Just approach these muscles with sensitivity and curiosity. Please take 3 more big breaths. Okay, press yourself on up. Take the balls out from underneath you. Just hold on to them or place them off to the side and flip right on over to your back. So we're going to do some diaphragmatic now. So if you actually can place your balls off to the side so your hands are free, that would be great. And then place your hands on your belly. Then take a big breath in and fill your belly up. So your diaphragm can lower down, and then exhale from the belly, and the diaphragm goes up. So keep doing this, taking some big belly breaths. Again, just allowing the diaphragm to relax and contract and do its job fully. And we'll take about 5 more big breaths here. Again, really focusing on your belly rising and falling with your breath. Just an easy, slow breath. You can bend your knees, roll onto your side, and slowly press yourself on up. Our next spot here again will be on our bellies, but I'll just show you first. We're going to get into our iliacus. So if you find your ASIS, so the bony bits at the front of your hip, and just go medial, just go in from that. And then when we lay down, similar idea to what we were just doing with the ribs, think about the balls going like up into your body, like deep into your body, and then it's like it could just go to the inside of your pelvic bowl. So let's try together. So find your ASIS, go to the inside, and again, you can start off on your forearms like we did before. This might be plenty, or you can lower yourself all the way down. And feel free to move a little bit until you find a spot that you can really feel this. And again, use an inhale to sort of like push the balls away. And then exhale, just surrender and think of the balls being like like sucked into your belly and going a little bit wide, like they could press into your pelvis. And then just keep doing that, using your breath to get a little bit deeper. Again, if at any point you need to just search a little bit, you might need to move around to find the right spot. But remember, we want to be just to the inside of the ASIS. So we're just using compression here on these more sensitive and tender muscles. These are most certainly muscles that we don't want to be really aggressive with or like push into. We'll take just a couple more big breaths here. Okay, you can press yourself on up, place the balls off to the side, and we're going to go into a lunge right away. So I forgot to say, but if you do have 2 blocks, you can use that for practice. Otherwise, just your hands is fine. Let's go left leg forward first, right knee back. Now, for this lunge, I'd like for you to really prioritize getting into the front of the right hip, into our hip flexors, into where we were just kind of opening there in the iliacus or the iliopsoas. So you can send, this works best for me, you decide. Send your left knee forward of your ankle, like so that you're in a nice deep lunge, and let your hips melt towards the floor. We're going to be here for 2 minutes on each side. You might notice as we're approaching our first minute here that with a bit of time, your body, there's like a give or a surrender or a letting go. So if you feel that, you can take your blocks down and just see if there's more depth to explore. There might not be, that's fine. So you can visualize the front of your right hip like a spider web. Gently, gently pulling on that webbing, creating more space. Let's take a big breath in. Let it out. Nice. And you can gently release. Let's just sit back on our heels for a few moments and let all of that settle. You can even take your hands back a little bit to keep the front of your hip open. Let's see what's going on the other side. So step your right foot forward. Again, use your blocks if you want, nice and high. I like them nice and high, and then your knee can go forward of your ankle if that works for you. So continue taking really big breaths into your belly so that the diaphragm can still contract and relax with ease and space. And if it's helpful, you can visualize the breath moving all the way down into your hips, especially the front of your left hip. That's our first minute through. So again, just tune into your body. There might be an invitation to go a little bit deeper into the physical pose, or maybe not. Take a big breath in and a slow breath out. And you can gently release. Make your way to Shavasana. So just place your blocks over to the side, lay down on your back, and let everything settle. Really tune into the front of your hips. Feeling that movement or flow of fluids or energy. The movement of any congestion or stagnation. Then bend your knees, please. Roll onto your side and press yourself on up so I can show you this next one. So we're going to get into the adductors. You'll need a block for this and one ball. So the adductors are the inseams of your thighs. So this is what it'll look like. We'll come down on our side like so, and then I'm going to place the block on the medium height so that, how do you explain that? So it's going like horizontal. It's parallel to the top of your mat. Let's say that. The ball will go right there. And then I'm just going to place my inner thigh on that ball. And we want the block positioned in such a way so that we can roll. That's a little bit too far away from me. There we go. So that you can roll back and forward like so. Okay. So you can go ahead and do that. Let's start on the right leg. And you can rest your head in your hand if you like. Make yourself cozy. Just position yourself in a way that you do have access to your inner thigh. And then once you're set up, once you've got a setup like what I have, then you can roll up and down. You won't have a ton of space because we're limited by the block, but that's okay. This is plenty of surface area to work with. I'm sure I've said this about every single muscle, but working the adductors is one of those muscle groups that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine on my inner thighs. I'm not too tight. And then you do this and you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, if you find an interesting spot, you can stay there and just pause. If you want to find a little bit of movement here, you can straighten out your leg and then bend it. Do that a few times. The adductors don't create this movement, but I feel like just finding a little bit of movement under the tissues, even if we're not exactly contracting or relaxing the tissues, still creates some interesting sensations there. Okay, that should be good. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to change the block so that it's now in line with the long edge of your mat so that we can cross fiber. So find one spot on your adductor, it doesn't really matter where along your inner thigh, and then we'll just cross fiber, so moving your leg up and down. And why don't you go ahead and find one more spot, so maybe move the block closer or further away from you, and then do that same thing. Oh my goodness. Okay, that should be about good. Rest, come into Shavasana actually. Take Shavasana for a few moments and let everything settle. All right, let's switch up sides. So just roll on over. You can just turn the other way. I'm going to turn myself so I can still see you. And we'll start off with the block parallel to the top edge of the mat. Go ahead and find a spot there and then roll the length of your adductors. Not the entire length, but just find a little section to work with there. Feel free to find a spot to stay. And again, just find a bit of movement with your left leg. I'm just going to bend and straighten. Okay, maybe find another spot or move the block a little bit closer towards you. That feels good. All right, let's switch it up. So the block goes along the other way. Find any spot you want along your adductor and we'll cross fiber. So move the leg up and down. Find another spot if you like. And of course, whenever we do MFR, if you find a spot you just want to hold, you can do that. Okay, maybe find one more spot if you want to bring the block a little bit closer to you. Again, just move up and down. All right, and then if you want, find stillness. Okay. That's enough of that. Let's come right into our yin pose for our adductors. So you can place your block, actually keep a block close by, but your balls can go off to the side. So we're gonna do frog pose. I'll show you facing you. So what you can do here if you like, just for some extra padding for your knees, is just to flip the edges of the mat over like so, or grab whatever you want. And then what we're gonna do is take the knees nice and wide, have your ankles and your knees in one straight line, and then come on down. This is where you might want a block. You can bring your forearms to the block if you like. You could also, if this feels too much on your knees, by the way, take a really wide child's pose and see how that feels for you, okay? So as long as you can feel this in your inner thighs, and we'll stay here for about 2 minutes. Feel the breath going really deep into your belly. There might be an invitation to take your knees a little bit wider. You can see how that feels. Take a big breath in and a slow breath out. Bring your hands to the floor. Walk your knees towards one another. And just sit back on your heels or take Shavasana and give yourself a few moments here. Let your body digest all of this information. We're going to do one last thing. We're going to get into the scalenes. So you don't need any props. We're going to do some self-massage just with our hands for this one. So the scalenes are, if you find, so if you want to turn your chin to the side and you find the big muscle that kind of pops out, that's your SCM. You want to be just behind it. So where, and deep to it as well. So how I get into this, what works best for me is just to cup the back of your neck with your forefingers. And then usually where your thumb lands will be scalene territory. So I'm doing the right side first. I'm not mirroring you. So what you can do is, it's like you're taking the skin and you're pushing in and down. So create a little bit of traction there. And then lower your left ear towards your left shoulder. And you can come back up, push in and down. Maybe find a little bit of a different spot and lower. Good. Do this a few times. You can go right up the neck. It's okay if you're not on the exact spot. Sometimes I like to trust my intuition and where my hands just kind of, or the balls or whatever, just kind of went. See if you can find a spot that you can linger. Maybe find one more spot. And slowly come on up. And then take your left ear towards your left shoulder and point your chin down for a second towards your shoulder. And then take your left hand to your head and just encourage a stretch along the right hand side. Okay, that should be about good. Left hand goes to left temple. Press your head up and just take a moment to feel. Does one side of your neck feel maybe longer or taller than the other? Let's do the other side. So cup the back of your neck. Press your thumb into the tissue that you can feel there. So in and down, and then right ear to right shoulder. And do that a few times. The neck is such a delicate area, so we want to be really compassionate and kind when we work with this tissue. We're not trying to push or force anything. Find a spot that you can just hold and be with. Let's go for another spot. And slowly come on up. Then lower your right ear to right shoulder, point your chin down, and you can bring your hand to your head if you like. Then right hand comes to temple. Press your head up. Take a moment to integrate. Close down your eyes and just feel. And that's you. You're all done. I hope you're feeling wonderful. Try your best to maintain that belly breathing, that diaphragmatic breath for as long as you can, and come back to this class over and over again. Like I said at the start, sometimes different days it feels a little bit different. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.